Hey friends, today's topic is my thoughts on the recent Trials of Osiris revamp, which aims to fix the following pain points of the previous system. The main one is lower skill players feeling overwhelmed by having to play significantly stronger players. They feel it's not even worth the attempt to try, and then they leave and natural skill creep infests the playlist, making every match harder as time goes on. Then the reward structure doesn't feel rewarding to most players, so that's yet another reason they don't participate. And then finally, solo players are too comfortable being solo that they never take the leap to being a trio. If we're judging the Trials of Osiris revamp purely on how it answers those pain points, then I would say this is an overwhelming success. It is fantastic. Obviously though, it's not perfect. It still has some work to be done, and I am going to choose my words very carefully because I want this feedback to have the best chance of being heard and not ignored, and to have my words assume the best intentions that I want the game to succeed and that I want this playlist to be healthy despite me not liking Trials of Osiris in general. I believe that the main problem is the lack of advertisement for this Trials of Osiris revamp. Y'all made something good, but I guarantee the audience that needs to see it most has no clue. They probably don't even read the in-game banner. I'm telling you, this advertisement should have looked like Vegas lights, slot machine lever pool. In the tower itself, St. 14's area needs to be decorated more vibrantly, or perhaps moved into the center of the tower just like Iron Banner. Maybe there should have been a questline for a new exotic or ornament or something like that someone has to follow from the director that would put them on the trajectory of queuing up trials and understanding the new system. In conjunction with this advertisement, presentation also matters. The entire trial system needs to be understood by a first grader for it to really take off. I was even getting questions from other high skill PvP players about specific situations that came up in regards to optimizing their loot drops, and I just couldn't answer it off the top of my head, which I do think is problematic. It should be very obvious what to do to get more loot. So if I get a 4 streak on the way up to 7, but I lose on game 5, finish it out and keep the card, but then I go on a 7 streak on that card without resetting, does it give me the 7 win streak rewards? Bro, I don't know. I read the document 3 times and I still can't tell you that answer. My point is, it should be obvious and easy to understand in game with 0 question marks, especially for the more casual, lower skill players. My next concern is that although the reward system was significantly revamped, I don't think these are compelling rewards for lower skill casual players. And I'm not just talking about the value of an adept weapon versus a normal weapon, I just mean in general. If I had to quantify what this skill bracket looks like, because I have ran into them on LFG, and by the way, I do finish the activity if I do get them in my team. I do try to help, but they're not really receptive to feedback. These players, they pretty much only use a machine gun, and if the content cannot be cleared with the machine gun, they just don't do it. Anything mechanically intense, anything that requires a little bit of reading or build crafting or some sort of loop or teamwork, those activities just don't exist to that player. So how does the trials loot incentivize them to interact with trials? I guess it would have to be the cosmetics. The cosmetics gotta look crazy. But although they look good, we just got a Star Wars collab, and seeing a stormtrooper run around the game, that's incentive. And of course they're gonna buy it on silver. Obviously it's a different intellectual property, but that's what I'm talking about. It needs to look insane for a casual player to see that in the wild, stop shooting the machine gun and be like, wait, where'd you get that? Now, despite me thinking that Bungie is the best in the industry for making shooting gun feel good, there's only so many things they can do to make a purple hand cannon feel different from another purple hand cannon when a player isn't invested in the mid to end game elements of Destiny 2. So strangely, I think like new and experimental archetypes need to be first featured in Trials of Osiris, even if they're not PvP or PvE endgame viable. If they just look and feel and sound different, that might be incentive enough for a more casual centric player to be like, that looks kind of cool, I want to go get that. Of course, that does run the risk of having a lackluster weapon as the featured weapon of the week, But that's another problem with the loot system. One single weapon per week is FOMO. And if that weapon's great, the playlist is going to be popping. And if the weapon is bad, it's going to be a ghost town. So I think they should already be putting thought into perhaps a way to get different and multiple adept weapons for every week of trials to create a perpetual incentive to play every week, even if the featured loot isn't good. For example, we have the tonic system to focus a specific weapon drop, and now we have the Tome of Wants. We have a crafting table. We have bounties, we have quest lines, etc. Perhaps this means you walk to the trials vendor, you take 3 adept weapons that you don't like, and convert it into one different adept weapon that is not the featured weapon of the week. That way, as long as trials is up, you can still go for what you actually want. That pretty much covers my casual and lower skill player concerns. Now let's talk about the medium to above average skill bracket, where I do feel that they're having maybe more pain points than they previously had. To quickly summarize the old versus the new trial system, in the old system, you had to win 7 out of 9 games, also known as having a double mercy card. And then after you went flawless, you could keep that card, and your future wins would have a 50% drop rate of an adept weapon. So to get that same drop rate in the new system, you have to go on a 4 win streak. So win 4 out of 4 games. Although in the new system, all you have to do is get to 7 wins, regardless of a streak, to get a single adept weapon, so it is a consolation prize that we didn't have access to in the past. The bad feeling that I'm talking about is when you're on a 3 win streak, or a 6 win streak, and then you're on PC, and you match a cheater. In the previous system, when you match a cheater, the mercy lets you continue, whereas now you have to either choose to reset to go on a new streak, or finish out the card to get your single pity consolation prize. Now that being said, before anybody gasses me up in the comments like, yeah, tell him Cam, tell him, we need the mercy back, I thought about it for a second. On second thought, perhaps the reason that the mercy wasn't included on this version of Trials is because if a player notices that they have significantly weaker teammates, they might just leave the match so that they can start a new match sooner, since they thought they were going to lose anyway, they want to save the time, and they had a mercy to burn. Speaking of significantly weaker teammates, that is another pain point for the above average players. There's a line of text in the TWID, a couple different TWIDs, that depending on your interpretation of the text, means that if a solo player matches with and against duos, that they get lost forgiveness. And apparently we're going to see this in Act 2 of whatever episode we're in. I think not having this at launch of the new trial system was a major failure because that is a giant pain point. Nobody likes playing with and against duos. The solo players crave freelance matchmaking, but the trio players don't want a dead population, so I understand that there has to be a system that gives incentive for a solo player to try to stick it out, to kind of act as fodder to boost the playlist numbers for trios, so that it stays sustainable. From what Bungie has proposed, I think this is an okay compromise for now. It just needed to happen at launch, not at Act 2. Now on the subject of duos and trios, this new loot system heavily incentivizes helping other players who have not yet completed a flawless card, a 7 streak. So you can have them party up with you, and this changes your matchmaking scheme from performance-based, which if you're a high-skilled player, that just means your games are going to be harder. And I don't know exactly what that means in this new trial system. I don't know how the matchmaking works. Is it pure random? Does it mean that it looks for just a single high-skilled player if there's not 5 other ones to fill? And then if it only finds one single high-skilled player, is it not random? Are they guaranteed to be on the enemy team? And then how does it distribute the other 4 players? See, a lot of question marks on how this works. Now, I don't think one weekend of trials is a big enough sample size to judge this matchmaking system, but I did talk to other similarly skilled players, and they had a similar experience to me, where you very much notice that you get extremely low skilled players that you have to carry, and there was some consistency to it, whereas in the previous system, I definitely had a giant sample size, and it felt just fairly random. The main realization comes from when you party up with someone who doesn't have a flawless card. That open matchmaking is so much easier than the performance-based. Now this is the part where I have to reiterate, I'm not a fan of trials in general, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to advocate for things that make it succeed and have a healthy population. It's not my cup of tea. I just know that when a commenter hears from a content creator that their performance-based matchmaking games were harder, they already have 2 paragraphs typed up about the world's smallest violin and how now you have to play players of similar skill. You're not having fun, are you? Actually, I am having fun playing other high-skill players, except can we do it in a place that isn't a shit playlist? Elimination sucks. Can we do it in a, I don't know, a competitive playlist with a more balanced sandbox, a rule set, an objective game mode, less radar, less special weapons? Like, can we get that rolling? I would love to play higher skill players there. In fact, you should be asking for that too, so the players like me don't feel like they ever need to play Trials of Osiris. I'm gonna stop myself right there. I went off the harness for a second. Let's bring it back. Bring it back. So yeah, high skill players that intentionally want to play lower skill players is just not a sustainable reality for a playlist like this, even with all the changes. Performance-based matchmaking has to be there. It's the lesserest of evils to maintain the health of the playlist. So to the player that wants easy games and they want to frag out, you pretty much have 2 choices. Either you carry people after you achieve your flawless to get into the open matchmaking, or you suck it up, accept that literally every other player of your skill level is going through the same thing, and just be better than them and win more games and go on big streaks. In solo queue, I'm on 21 right now. I usually average between 20 and 30 on a given weekend, but I've never really tried to maintain a streak. It just naturally happens. Yeah, sorry if I had to be real for a second, but yeah, truth is harsh. So now let's talk about other miscellaneous things I noticed about trials that I want to include in a feedback video. Starting with the stat line in the post-game report or after a round. Why is Dominions achieved on the first page of the stat line? Also, like, that's such a useless stat. You know if they stood on the zone to cap it. Like, I need to see damage. Maybe time on zone is a better stat than Dominions achieved, because then you know what your teammates are doing, you know what they're playing like, and you know how to adjust for future rounds to have success. It's helpful. So let's get some more helpful stats on that page. Okay, next we're going to talk about tired of sitting in orbit with nothing to do, but you're in luck. Bungie just brought back power leveling. Now, instead of being at 2010 and just playing the game, you can do an arbitrary list of chores to get to 2020 so you can do reasonable damage in trials. Dude, power leveling sucks. There are still cheaters in the game. It's not preventing them from flying around the map Harry Potter style. My real issue with this is because at a certain point in the trials weekend, I get bored of winning and I want to use some variety. But I can't use variety because I don't keep infusion fuel, because to no one's surprise, my vault is full because I play the whole game. I play PvE endgame, I play Gambit, I play PvP endgame, I play all 3 characters, I play all the roles in PvP. There is literally not enough vault space. Power leveling sucks. Okay, next, on Burnout map specifically, I think the wheels need to start at half. I am so tired of rolling the dice on somebody sniping me instantly because my character happened to spawn the farthest away from running to the midline. It's infuriating. Start the wheels at half. Oh, you know what else is infuriating? It makes me red with anger. You cannot turn the red glow off. If you get a 7 win streak, you get like a menacing red glow, and all your trials armor and all your trials weapons turn red. And it turns off the magical girl shader. What the hell? The final miscellaneous thing I want to talk about, and maybe this isn't a problem at all because Trials is successful and popular right now. I got all my Exalted Truth hand cannons, 4 out of 5s, 5 out of 5s, every permutation I wanted. It's in the vault. I'm rewarding myself now by leaving the Trials playlist and, get this, playing something that I actually want to play, like the Control playlist. Except that when I finally get into a match, it's not connection based. I'm literally in Brazil. And to add insult to injury, bad connection players love to use Behemoth Melee, Grapple, and Lightning Surge. Even if you were playing against your next door neighbor, the game still doesn't know what to do with Lightning Surge. It's just such a jank movement. But hey, like I said, maybe Control not finding good connection matches because Trials is successful is a good thing, because at least something is successful. That pretty much covers everything I wanted to say, so now summary and closing notes. Summary, I think they did a good job by making lower skill players want to play trials. That's fantastic. Mission accomplished. But the bigger elephant in the room is advertisement, presentation, and new player onboarding. You have to nail those for this playlist to be healthy in the future. I said closing notes, but I don't really have any. I guess I'll only just say that don't forget about the health of the competitive playlist either. It still exists. There are players that want it to be good. Okay, I hope you enjoyed my feedback. I hope I was somewhat respectful, and I hope it's somewhat useful, and I hope that the comment section is also helpful and useful and nice to each other. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.